Hello all. Today we're going to have a look at how we can use the script that I've created in order to help you transfer data between two hard drives, one in which one has vmfs data. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using this script to transfer some data in which one hard drive has vmfs and the other one is just a plain hard drive. Why are we doing this? Well, there are a number of solutions out in the market at the moment which do this, but they're quite expensive. So for example, here's one program called disk internals, which does recovery of vmfs. Now, they do offer some pretty cool stuff. I mean, you can register for it, you can buy for vmfs recovery on Windows, but it's, for a hobbyist like myself, this is kind of out of reach because this doesn't really match what I'm trying to do. It does have the vmfs file system recovery, but as you can see, it's quite expensive. So I thought to myself, well, maybe there's an open source solution. And what I found is that there is actually an open source sort of way to do this. And I came across this article from Nvme. And what they kind of said was that there's something called a vmfs-fuse, which comes about as part of a package called, I do have it here, I think it's called VM tools. Let me just check that for you. There you go, vmfs tools. And that's for version 5. And there's something called vmfs tools for version 6 as well. So I'm using this to transfer the data and get those VMDK files that I want, because what I've done is that I've tried to increase the size of the hard drives which are on my VMware system. So I went from 500 gigabytes to 4 terabytes. And in the process, I managed to kind of destroy the data store. Yeah, because they were on the same drive. Don't hate me, but yeah. So what I've done is that I've made 2 hard drives now, both of which are 4 terabytes, WD Blacks, NVMe, but I want my old stuff back, which is all in the VMDK information. So this was kind of like the easiest and fastest and cheapest way that I could think of that made sense to me. So what I did was essentially follow this guide, and what it says is essentially, well, you have vmfs tools, which is a program from the apt repository. Essentially, you download it, and you essentially create a folder, find out which disks that you want through the fdisk command, and you find the partitions which have the data, and then you transfer based upon the mount. Essentially, that's what it's saying. I found it to be, it's okay, but I think we can probably make it a slight bit faster. And that's where the script comes in. So with this script, what I've done is I've created 2 separate functions. One is a prerequisites, which will install all the necessary programs which you need in order to continue the process. And then I've got another function called stuff, which is, well, stuff, it creates stuff. There are 4 variables inside of the script, which is a folder to be created, and you can call this whatever you want at your own leisure. Doesn't really matter what you call it, as long as it exists, right? So I put it in mount vmfs to represent a mount, and we've got the copy data from and the copy data to, which are supplied as arguments towards the script. So what does that mean? Well, it means that when you execute the script, you'll have 2 different parameters, which will look something like this. So you can call it test.sh, test.sh, and you can say dev sda1, dev, sda2, for example. You just run it like that. That's all it means when you have the $1 and $2. The script accepts 2 arguments. So what's happening in the stuff section? Well, we're creating 2 folders. So we create the folders which are part of the variables. We then check that the data is present. So in other words, when we do the vmfs-fuse, we're checking to see that the mount is created and we can see the data which is part of that mount. So in other words, when we mount it, we see that there's a partition. We mount the partition to a folder, essentially. That's what we're doing. We mounted the partition to a folder. And we're doing the same sort of thing on the second hard drive, because I've got 2 hard drives here. Mount the partition to a folder. And we're not expecting anything to be in the second hard drive partition, because I'm essentially rsyncing the data across. That's what I'm doing here. So what that means is that I'll be copying the data with a progress bar to see what's going on, right? Because sometimes what happens is that when we copy data, certain unexpected things happen. You know, perhaps the system catches a cold and decides to lock up on a process, or you know, etc. Or perhaps it runs out of power because it's a laptop. Any sort of thing can happen. So by using the rsync command, we can say, right, okay, if 10 files are copied across out of 20, that's 50%. We can carry on from file 11 through 20, and our job is done. Okay, so that's what's going on at this point here. Cool. So, cool, what do we do now? Very simple. Literally just copy it. Okay. And I'm going to SSH into my computer, which has both the hard drives. And we run an fdisk command, fdisk -l, sudo fdisk-l, so don't worry if you can't see that because it comes up with permissions error. This gets around the permissions error. And what you'll see is that you'll have a number of different drives on the machine, and they may not necessarily make sense. So in other words, you'll have things like devloop6, which is kind of like a loopback disk essentially, or they're part of different operating system functions, when needed for different operating system functions, in fact. Or you'll find something like, you know, SD7, which is BSD partition. So this is part of my main operating system. So this is my main drive, which is the Samsung 860, which I have in this laptop. And you'll see things like other drives as well. So in my case, I've got dev SDA8, which I know is my VMware vmfs. You may not see that, which is fine. All you have to do is comment out the stuff section in the overalls function, then recopy the script, and what you'll do then is you will then create a folder for where you want to put the script. So in my case, that's test script 2. That's just a simple mkdir command. So mkdir, in my case, it's test scripts 2. So mkdir test scripts 2. I already have it, so it doesn't really make much sense. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to, what I'm going to do now is create the script, which is test script. So the way that we do that, I'm going to remove it because I already have it. But what I'll do is I will recreate it with that. So you can call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Just do a set paste to make sure that the formatting stays the same. Go back to your favorite editor, or you can, when this is up, all you have to do is just do a git clone, or you can do a wget of the raw because it will be on GitHub. And then all you have to do is just copy and paste it. Now that it's in there, remember to right quit. So right quit, I to insert. So insert with I goes into the insert once you have the set paste command on. In fact, let me show that in a bit better detail. I think this was a little bit rushed, right? So let's do that again. So what you do is you vytest, set paste, like that. Press the I key on your keyboard, which will go into insert paste, and then left click. Okay, and that gives you that nice little script there. Command plus X to activate permissions. So in other words, you'll get read, write, execute permissions. In this case, it's execute because we have X. And you'll see that now we have the permissions that we need. We've got test.sh. And all we have to do now is we have to execute the script. But hang on. How do we execute the script? Because we don't have the parameters, right? There's 2 different parameters which are needed for the script. Good question. So we need to figure this out, right? So that's the part of the fdisk command. But before we do that, we do actually need to run the script. And the way that we do that, because we don't need the parameters, it's actually okay. I think this will run. Yeah, it will do. Okay. So we just need to run so that when we get all the prereqs done, now we can use the fdisk, right? And we've actually run fdisk as part of the script parameters. So we don't even need to do that. We actually done it, which is great. So now let's check our thing again. So I'm going to just run the script again, just to make sure, you know, we've got the VMFS in. And the one that we want is anything called VMFS. So in our case, that's SDA8, right? So let's make a note of that particular partition of the drive. So our drive is SDA465. So this is the entire disk. and this is the partition that we want. So I want this partition because I know that houses my VMware file system. So what I've done is I've made an actual note of this, which is SDA8. Now, I have another drive in my system, and this drive is where I'm going to put the data. So in other words, the data from SDA8, which is my VMware VMFS, is going to end up in SBD1 through a mount. Because we can't use the partition directly, we have to use a mount point to put the data into that partition. So now we have to just make a note of that, and you'll see what I've done is I've created a Microsoft Basic Data disk, which is just an NTFS partition on a drive. Okay, so I've copied that there as well. And what you can do is you can use gparted, so you can use gparted on Ubuntu desktop to create a new partition on a blank disk. Okay, that's very important to remember. So if I go to Edge, for example, and we go here and I click on gparted, right? I just want to show you this because I don't have gparted on this particular machine, but hopefully I can get gparted if it works, if my internet is working, which is not. Oh my gosh, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. When I want to record a video and it doesn't work. Wow. That was not scripted. I guarantee you that was not scripted. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. Wow. I'm gonna leave that in because that's actually kind of funny. But forsaking that, I'll come back to I'll come back to that. So oh, I lost my session as well. That was weird. Ah, what happened? Oh, no, it's not dead. It's just asleep. Okay. Ugh. Screw you. Right, back in again. Right, okay. So here we go. Okay, cool. So we're back. So we have added that. Yes, okay. So yes, you can use gparted in order to create that blank disk. So in other words, create it with the relevant format of the file system which you want. So for example, you could use NTFS, you could use ext4, whichever one that you require. In my case, I went with NTFS. The reason why is because I need to upload it onto the VMware datastore, and this is the easiest way which I can do it. Because what I can do then is I can actually go into my disk. So once I've copied everything over, and then just click on the upload button, and everything's done. And this is my own personal system, so there we go, right? So next thing that we need to do is we need to go back. We need to run fdisk. No, we don't need to run fdisk again. What we need to do is we need to now get back to where the script is. So get back to where the script is. So let's just do an smarcell test_script _2 directory. So we need to go to the test scripts directory _2. Okay, cool. So I've got the test script there, and we just need to execute based upon what we have here, which is SDA8 to copy to and from, right? Because those are the parameters which are necessary in order for it to run. So we need that one, and then we need that one. So it's just where you're copying from and where you're copying to. That's all it cares about. And now watch this. Watch this, right? This is cool. Okay, so I've got that. Now the reason why that didn't work is because if I go to test.sh and I go down here, we've got stuff in here. So I need to activate stuff, which is done by removing the sharp key, right click, And here we go. Check the mounts. So this will have vmfs. We'll see that the data is there. Okay, and there we go. So we actually have data in there. And we're sending the data that we want through the rsync command. And that's it. Simple, straightforward. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you need any more information, any help or anything, let us know. Subscribe, comment, and like as usual. And yeah, I hope this has helped you out. This has certainly helped me out. Now I know that I'm going to be able to get the ISO files and the VMDK files that I have on this particular device. And on top of that, I know that it's actually mounted, which is all pretty cool. So yeah, I hope this helps.